We have a lot to cover when it comes to Fallout 76 news. Earlier today, Fallout 76 became available in Xbox Game Pass, as well as a new bundle to go in line with that. Even further, there's been a lot happening with the game over the past week or so. Several new exploits popped up, including one very large dupe exploit that has been making the rounds, and a lot of people are aware of it, at least right now. In addition to some score-based exploits, and even just a glitch that are making it so some people cannot complete challenges to actually progress their rank in the Battle Pass system. And then if all of that wasn't enough, we also do have a pretty big update to the PTS, an update around legendary perks, as well as some of the other future content and some data mines giving us a lot of context as to what's next. There's going to be a lot to go over in this one. If you guys enjoy the content, you can leave a like or subscribe. Also, this month has been one of the worst for CPM on YouTube, so if you do want to check out my merch shop, I will have that linked down below in the description. We have a pretty cool Fallout mug that I've been pushing over the past couple of months if you guys do want to check it out. So first and foremost, let's go over some of the simple stuff. The new announcements from Bethesda in their weekly Inside the Vault article. Some of the initial ones are around the ammo converter, one of the new rewards with the score system that was not super well received. The ammo converter had a variety of problems. The exchange rates weren't super beneficial, but the larger problem was the interface was just obnoxious. Hopefully the background footage kind of speaks for itself in that regard if you haven't used it. But Bethesda announced some pretty sweeping changes. They're making it so you could trade more ammo per exchange. Right now there's a fixed value that when you are buying or selling ammo, it's just 12 rounds. You might have 20,000 you're trying to get through, but you could only do it at a rate of 12 per. But with this change, they're making it so you could sell 10 times or 100 times as much, which will significantly expedite the process, literally making it 100 times faster. One of the other restrictions was the amount of ammo points. Currently, you could only have a maximum of 2,000 ammo points from selling ammo, which isn't really that much, so you'd have to constantly convert those ammo points into a different ammo type and couldn't really sit on them if you had large quantities. But they're raising the cap to this also to 100,000. So now not only will you be able to sell ammo much quicker, but you're going to be able to actually hold a lot more value worth of ammo points in that machine. It seems like they're still not going to be doing sliders, which I don't understand why. It seems like something like this would be the easiest way to convert ammo, but overall there's going to be fewer button presses. So there'll be one less screen you have to go through while you're trading it. So overall, pretty big improvements. They're not making any changes to the conversion rate, and they haven't mentioned thus far any plans for that. So if you are unhappy with how much you are getting for your ammo, you'll still be unhappy. But I think a lot of people just had a ton of ammo because they've been playing this game for the past year and a half and accumulating it and didn't have a good way to offload it. And this will now make it a lot simpler and a lot quicker to actually do that. Also today, Fallout 76 is now included in Xbox Game Pass. This for both the PC and Xbox version. So if you do see an abundance of new players, it's likely people trying out the game for free included with their subscription. Since this just came out and a lot of people are probably still downloading it or just at work or school or doing something where they can't play it, it's hard to see the impact. Microsoft does have this most played games on their store, so it'll be interesting to see how this position shifts. Right now it's here. It's not totally clear how often this updates, but over the next couple of days and in my next video, I'll definitely come back to this to see how many spots it goes up. Also to go along with this, Bethesda dropped the Appalachia Starter Bundle, which is actually very simple. For $8 you can get 1100 atoms, Piper's outfit and hat from Fallout 4, and 5 repair kits and 5 scrap kits. So if you're going to buy atoms anyway, this is technically a better exchange rate. You're getting more atoms for your $8, but otherwise, unless you really wanted Piper's outfit, there's not a ton of incentive to buy this one. And it's definitely nothing extreme like I was predicting, having lunchboxes or those new Vault Tech supply crates. So just to be clear, I was inaccurate in predicting that or suspecting that would be a thing. It's actually very simple. And then one final thing, they do announce how starting tomorrow there will be another Legendary Purveyor sale, so things will just be discounted across the board. Although independent of that, there has been quite a few other things going on in Fallout 76. One of the first ones is a new dupe method. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do it, but it's simple. It's very easy to do. It's available on all consoles, so PC, PS4, and Xbox One, and it works with any item you could sell to a vendor, as the method involves using a vendor. So if we see Bethesda disable vendors shortly, you'll know why. And to be clear with that, it's not player vending machines, but NPC vendors, so things like Sunny. And honestly with this stuff, I'm just getting tired of covering it because it's the same story every single time with Bethesda. a new dupe pops up, and either A, in around 48 hours, it is patched and addressed, and that's actually more of a recent, quicker time. It used to be several weeks. Or if it's not a quick and easy fix, Bethesda will disable whatever that thing is, like we just saw with display cases and vending machines a couple of months ago, until they do have a fix ready to ship. And then a couple of weeks later, some of the people that were abusing the dupe will be banned, but there's always plenty of time for people to sell or trade those items to other more legitimate accounts that don't get banned. And in turn, the economy is permanently in a slightly worse position. And at this point, it's just like clockwork that these things happen. And one of the big reasons is a lot of these dupes are abusing the same fundamental mechanics. So what Bethesda will do is patch out the specific dupe method, but not address the more permanent and underlying mechanic that's making that dupe possible. So for a lot of the dupes we've seen, it's abusing the same mechanic, just finding different ways to do so. It's like if you were consistently punching holes through a wall and Bethesda's on the other side putting tape over those holes instead of just getting a stronger wall. And even further, now after a year and a half, Bethesda still has no ability to track individual items. So if you dupe a bunch of times, then trade that to other people, then they can't track that. They don't know where those items went. A very simple fix, just make it so legendary items have a unique item ID. If it's duped and suddenly you have two items with the exact same item ID, you'll know, there's a problem there. But honestly, having covered this for the past year and a half, it is honestly impressive how poor of a job they've done with addressing it. On one side, the fact that despite it happening again for a year and a half, they haven't really made any substantial improvements overall to prevent this in the future. They're still using the same methods to address this. But secondly, just the sheer number of times the same mechanics are being abused for these dupes. And of course, this is made far worse by the fact that Fallout 76 was just added to Game Pass, which in particular in consoles. Unless Microsoft starts handing out hardware ID bans for the system overall, and I don't think that's going to happen, things will be pretty bad because this is very easy to do and it's very accessible because you could create a lot of accounts very quickly. This is actually the second time a major dupe or exploit like this has come out just before something like a free weekend. Of course, this time it's on a free weekend, but it almost is in that you could create a free trial just by using the Game Pass access that is now available. But moving on, there is a separate and additional exploit, this time around another mechanic that has been getting abused several times now. This particular exploit is around the score system and the legendary run, so it's not really hurting anyone except Bethesda directly. But put simply, the way this works is you have to get God mode status on your character, which is a separate exploit that, although was partially addressed with the last update, was not totally addressed. And once in God mode, there's a way to make it so you gain more experience just by doing things. And since you can get score just by gaining experience, you can get yourself in a status where just by getting some kills or building at your camp, you'll get ridiculous amounts of experience and can complete that repeatable experience challenge very quickly. This one seems a bit easier to address by Bethesda, and I do wonder if they'll come down harder just banning these accounts outright, because it is indirectly taking money out of their wallet. You are losing users who would potentially pay to advance their rank in the score system now. But if you see a bunch of people that are level 100, there's a decent chance they didn't do that legitimately, although technically I think you could have gotten there legitimately if you've been playing nonstop. And actually a little bonus to this, do some of you remember how a while ago I showed you this glitch, where effectively you would have challenges consistently autocomplete for you, which at the time meant you would keep earning atoms. So that was reported to Bethesda. It was never fixed. Fortunately, it never became widespread publicly, but it still works for score now. So hypothetically, if you abused this, you would just get score added to your account over and over again until you hit the max limit. Bethesda never fixed it. And this is pretty common in the community. There's a lot of exploits, in particular dupe exploits, that are known throughout some of the darker circles. Things I don't really know about, I just hear the rumblings of, that are just never really shared with the public. Because of course, if you know it, and it gets shared with the public, it's probably going to get patched shortly thereafter. But some of these people, especially those who are selling items for Fallout 76, try and keep some of these dupes pretty private and just use them themselves. Then every once in a while you see one that makes its way to the mainstream. And if all of those exploits weren't bad enough, one of the very popular hacks to be used around this game, that with Erectus, just got updated. The original creator of that one seems to have largely moved on, that with ErectBan, the creator of things like the inventory steal hack as well as the item creation hack, but some community members have taken to updating this hack software, so that could be another problem we continue to see persist in the background. And just to clarify on that, this software isn't the inventory steal hack, and it isn't creating legendary items, so you don't have to worry about those coming back. This has a separate set of functionality that I don't want to go too deep into here, but it can be abused in both Adventure and Nuclear Winter, and it allows things like auto-aim, easier looting of mass items, as well as some other more nefarious uses. Then last but not least, not quite an exploit, but a bug around the score system. I've received a ton of reports over the past couple of days about auto-completing challenges. There's been a bug with Fallout 76 for a while now that sometimes your challenges will autocomplete and not give you the rewards. In the past, that was frustrating, annoying, you were missing out on atoms. Now it's a bit more consequential because you're not progressing the score system. A lot of people show me images where they logged on, it's literally just after the new challenges came out, but several are automatically completed without them getting any score point rewards. It's not totally clear why this bug happens. Bethesda has already responded to it, but again, I've received like 10, 15, 20 messages about this over the past few days. It seems like it is happening to a lot of people, and of course, it's very frustrating. I don't imagine Bethesda will refund these. The community support in the past has said they don't have a way to directly give you score, but I guess we'll see what happens with all of this. If people are just stuck waiting until the next update for this eventually to get addressed. And as far as how to avoid this, I don't have any tips because it's not totally clear what causes it. It seems like different things for different people. Although fortunately, one of the upsides to the score system, potentially, is that it's made the Nuclear Winter mode a lot more active. In general, I think the Battle Pass is making a lot of people just play together more. You find more people doing events to get some of those challenges completed. A lot of those public teams are filling up quite quickly to get some of the bonuses, and in general, I think it's a good addition to the game. Although, even though many of these Nuclear Winter lobbies are fuller, it's not like actual players, because normally those players are just hyper-focused on completing the challenge, which some were very simple, like place your camp 3 times, but you also may run into this, and I've seen some people asking, well, what is this? Basically, in Nuclear Winter right now, there's a lot of people who have created pretty simple bots that will just AFK you in the mode, but make you move around a little bit. So if you see this, it's just an AFK bot running on somebody's computer. Although outside of this, we actually got a pretty big update around the public test server for Fallout 76, and of course, the public test server is now back. From this, we got a lot of data mines, which I'll be going over, but even further. One of the big parts are we got the return of legendary perks, as well as the Wendigo Colossus event, and fairly major changes with each of these. So with legendary perks, they added a wide variety of new and additional perk cards that were actually really good, and I'll go over them. But firstly, some of the other changes to this. After you unlock a legendary perk card slot, you can just assign perk cards there for free. If you want to swap one out, like take the one you have equipped and change it for another one, it does require 1 perk card coin now, which you do get by scrapping some of those perk cards that you just earn naturally through play. And although that's really cheap and easy to do, perk card coins are also used when leveling up legendary perks. One of the changes that came to perk card coins in this is now they're actually slightly harder to get. Previously, if you were just scrapping a regular perk card, you'd get 1 coin per scrap, but if you were scrapping a gold perk card, those ones you get when opening perk card packs, it would actually have a 5 times multiplier. So if it was a level 4 gold perk card, you got 20 coins instead of just 4. They removed that multiplier, so now every perk card gives you the same amount. This because some people were frustrated they were forced to scrap the gold perk cards, which have some cool animations on them, which would normally be fine, except now it's just significantly harder to get perk card coins, and all of the other values are the same. It still costs 100 perk card coins to rank up a card once, then the second level is 150, then 3 and 4 are 200 coins. If you just want to rank up one of these legendary perk cards to max level, the rough estimates is you'll have to be over level 400. That because you get one perk card every single level, but then every 5 levels after level 10, you get 1 perk card pack, which is 4 perk cards. But overall, if you wanted to get all of your legendary perks to max rank, you would have to be several thousand levels. Bethesda kind of made the justification that, well, you're getting additional perk cards now through the season system, so it should somewhat balance out. Through the entire season, you could get 13 perk card packs. So in total, 52 perk cards. That's literally not enough coins to actually unlock even 1 rank up. So although technically true, it's not like it's going to make a super significant difference here. Overall, I think this grind is still something that desperately needs to be addressed because it would be by far and wide the biggest grind in the game. And it's like one of those things that I think it's just too big of a grind for most people to even attempt to tackle it. But we do have around 2 months before this update goes live, so there's definitely time for this to be addressed, and hopefully they do take some of this additional feedback into consideration. Although separate from that, we actually saw quite a bit of an overhaul to many of the perk cards that are available via this system, which is one of the other aspects that had a lot of pushback when it was initially put on the public test server. A big shout out to Midroad as well as Hoonface, as they actually did compile a list of all of these as well as the various rank effects on the subreddit for Fallout 76. I'll have a link to the post down below. But otherwise, Ammo Factory makes it so you produce more rounds when crafting ammo. That's huge because 150% more rounds at rank 4 is a massive upgrade. You'll produce more than 2 times as much ammo. And if you're someone creating ammo in Fallout 76, which I know a lot of people do, this is almost a must take. Anti-venom makes it so you have additional poison resist while wearing matching armor, and there's actually a variety of perks that do give you benefits for matching armor. And to be clear, the way that'll work is it has to be one of a set. So for example, if you have all of the pieces of scout armor on or robot armor, it used to be the class of armor, so heavy, light, medium, but that was removed. Blood sacrifice, so when you die, your teammates gain additional damage resistance as well as a HP heal, and this lasting from 8 to 14 seconds depending on the rank. That one's handy, but it's not as influential as some of the other ones. Brawling Chemist is an interesting one. Over a certain amount of time, you're going to generate a certain number of a combat enhancing chem. This is the super chem that we had previously, giving you plus 30% melee damage and 25 damage resist and 2 strength for 5 minutes. Cleave gives you a percent chance for melee in VATS to do area damage. This seems like it'll be ridiculously good once it actually is implemented correctly, because right now it kills you. I'm a bloody build, and I think a lot of people who use melee probably are a bloody build. It tends to be one of the better builds with melee, but even when restoring my health to almost full, it looked like it still killed me. Although again, the area of effect that this impacts is quite large. I could see this being a must-take for melee builds. Collateral damage is the same one we had before, where enemies killed in melee have a percent chance to explode. Detonation contagion, enemies killed by thrown explosives have a chance to explode. That one in particular, I'm surprised they kept. It seems like a very specific use case, and I don't know of too many thrown weapon builds out there. Electrical absorption makes it so there's a chance to recharge your power armor's fusion core. Exploding palm and far-flung fireworks are the 2 other explosive perks, one being for unarmed, one being for ranged. The ranged one in particular has a pretty good chance at actually being pretty relevant depending on your build. Although an important disclaimer, the first one I showed you, Cleave, is for VATS hits and it does area of effect damage. It's kind of an explosion, but also not. Cleave seems way stronger than the typical exploding ones. Fire Lining is another one that gives you fire damage resist while wearing matching armor. Fall Through makes it so range sneak damage increases damage to target by a certain percent for 10 seconds. That in particular can be very, very powerful with how often fixer builds are used. There might almost be an issue where some people are over damaging because they already do so much damage from sneak attacks, but in specific cases, if you just throw this card on, it definitely could be a big impact on boss fights or queen fights. There are legendary special perk cards now, which these in particular seem like they have the potential to be very, very strong. Basically, the way it works is you get plus 1, 2, 3, or 5, so an extra point at the final level, to a special stat of your choosing. There's a legendary perk card for every special stat. This making it so not only do you have plus 1 to that special stat, but also plus 1 or more perk card slot. The perk card slots in particular for this could be immensely valuable depending on your build again. This really opens up a whole realm of additional build possibilities. In a similar vein, Master Infiltrator will make it so you will auto unlock terminals or locks at a certain level, as well as give you plus 3 lockpick and hacking skill right off the bat. This one's cool. The way it works is if you just have level 1, you just get plus 3 to lockpicking and hacking. So no longer do you have to take up slots in perception with those lockpick or hacking skill cards. But if you get this to max level, it'll make it so you never have to go through the hacking or lockpicking process again. It'll just auto open stuff for you, which is a huge change. I don't know if it's going to be worth denoting 400 levels or so to this, but let's say you have a couple of extra levels, you're like something ridiculous like 2000, could be a good one just to always have on. Nuclear Proliferator is another interesting new one. It generates a lightweight nuke every X amount of time. This is actually a little weapon that you can use. It seems to be a throwing weapon in game. Power Armor Reboot makes it so you have a chance to auto revive with full health if downed in power armor. That actually seems like it could be very valuable if you denote the points to it. Power Sprinter, while in power armor, sprinting consumes fewer AP. That's a huge one. That for power armor users will probably end up being a must take. I know I for one love playing high agility builds and just overall love sprinting. Retribution, where blocking a melee attack restores health and AP for 15 seconds. Survival Shortcut's another new one, and this also has the chance to be very, very powerful. You generate a survival aiding chem every so often and determines how many of these you could hold. The key with this is the survival aiding chem cures disease and restores health, hunger, and thirst to 100%. So this can be very powerful because it does have the potential to make it so if you max this out, you will never have to worry about hunger or thirst. You could always just use this chem and it will 100% restore it. Now, this isn't a particularly difficult part of the game, but if you wanted to remove it completely right now, at least on the public test server, you could do so. And this one in particular is actually going to get better on release. We know that these legendary perks are coming out with patch 22. Also planned for patch 22 is One Wasteland. With One Wasteland, they're reportedly removing the requirement to eat and drink in this game. Right now, if you don't eat or drink, you get a debuff. They're going to change it so if you do eat or drink, you'll get a buff. So it's something you could completely ignore, or alternatively, take this legendary perk and consistently have that buff without ever having to worry about getting water or food. Again, getting water and food isn't really that difficult to begin with, but if you just wanted to clean up that aid section, this is an easy way to do it. Taking one for the team makes it so enemies take more damage when they attack you if you're on a team. Another no-brainer one, especially now with the inclusion of public teams, so you do spend such a majority of your time on teams. And then finally, What Rads, which gives you additional rad resist and restores certain amounts of rads per second. So overall, I would say this is a huge upgrade. There still is a lot of time again to tweak these, but I think as they stand right now, several of these are perk cards that feel like must-takes, things I'm immediately compelled to want, and it does become difficult now to actually pick 4 of them. There's going to be a lot of different synergies depending on your build, but broadly speaking, this is the legendary perk system all of us wanted. So I'm really happy to see Bethesda delay this and improve it to a point that I think most people now will be happy. They still have to get that grind right. I mean, the grind right now for leveling some of these up are just too ridiculous. The fact that me as a level 150 player probably can't max out any of these perk cards easily is kind of insane. You'd think I should be able to at least max out one legendary perk slot, right? But hopefully Bethesda does listen to the feedback on that and improve it in the 2-month time span we have before it gets implemented. Although we actually do have a pretty big change when it comes to Colossal problem also. Right now in the PTS, the way this is working is starting at noon in every 4 hours, so at noon Eastern Time, then 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, etc., a nuke automatically drops on the Monaga mine, which is where Colossal problem takes place. The event itself is basically the same. It doesn't really seem like much has changed during that event, except how many people can participate, as it has been switched to 8-player sessions. This is using instancing technology, so the way it works is if there's 8 people doing the event and you join, it'll create a new and separate instance where you're doing it alone. It's rather odd to me. I feel like part of the appeal of some of these boss level events is how many people are participating all at once. Like with the Queen fights, you have a whole server all there working together, and that's really cool and unique. Although I imagine part of the reason they're doing 8-player limits is it makes the event more difficult overall, more of a true challenge. And since this isn't an interior, it is something they could fairly easily do, where with the Queen, they can't really do that. I have to test this more. There's not many people on the public test server right now playing it, so I don't really have a good idea as to whether or not this is good or bad, but it certainly is an interesting change, and at the very least, I'm happy they're trying it. But then we move on to some of the data mines that were found in the files with this PTS update. One of the major ones are 2 new power armor skins that seem like they'll be available on the Atomic Shop. Although now it's kind of hard to tell. It could be Atomic Shop, it could be into the next season. That is somewhat the time frame we're looking at with some of this content. The first one's the Junkyard Power Armor, which I think looks fascinating. It's a very unique or different design and aesthetic compared to a lot of the existing power armors. I feel like to a point some of the newer power armors were getting very familiar to the old ones, but this is definitely different, and I like it. It definitely looks like a cool one that'll have several different skins to it. And also the Highway Patrol Power Armor. This isn't necessarily its final form, it was kind of loosely put together to get it to show in game. I honestly don't love this one. I think it is a cool concept, but as far as the execution, it could do a little bit better. But again, maybe that's just because it's not indicative necessarily of the final product based on how it's built here. It looks like Bethesda will have several things coming with QuakeCon. It's not clear if this will just be something that's available to buy during QuakeCon. They've had QuakeCon bundles of items in the past, very similar to this Appalachia bundle. But we do have a Mr. Demonic backpack, which is just a reskin of one of the existing backpacks to make it spookier. as well as the Beelzebubby head and suit, which is a retexture of the Sheep Squatch outfit. Although those are cool, and if they're free additions from QuakeCon, even better. But this gets me pretty hopeful that during this QuakeCon, Bethesda actually does release a proper kind of year 2 trailer showing off some of the content coming in the latter half of 2020. We saw a summer trailer that we just got recently, and it was okay, but a lot of that content was somewhat already in the game or in the public test server, and I have a feeling at QuakeCon they might have one of those meteor ones, like a Wastelanders trailer revealing a lot of new stuff. We're getting some new emotes in the future. One of them is going to be a "so sorry" emote. This has been highly requested, and one of the community managers even confirmed on Reddit that this would be a free addition on the Atomic Shop. But a few other ones were actually data mined. A "no mic" emote, an angry fist shaking emote, a Mothman worship emote, probably what the Mothman cultists do, and even one requesting others to join your public team. It seems like that might just be a natural addition as it's not with the ATX prefix. Meat Week got some decent sized changes. We saw that this was making a return from the community roadmap. Firstly, there's going to be several new rewards. There's this new high-tech grill that will be coming, some new Chally apparel, both a hat as well as an outfit that is interesting, and a new beer stein. I actually think that's really cool. It seems like the thing Bethesda is doing with these beer steins is giving us a display case, but then also it's kind of going to be the seasonal reward for a lot of these events. The first season gave one, this year's Fosnot gave one, Meat Week will give one, and I think it'd be kind of cool if from year to year you could actually get different ones. So eventually it'll be clear, oh, I participated in Fosnot 2020 because I have this beer stein to show for it. If Vault 76 goes on for a long time, it'll be cool to look back on some of this content. But also it looks like Meat Week will follow in the footsteps of Fosnot of giving you some free options as far as those outfits or the grill goes that look one way, but then in the Atomic Shop it'll have all of that same content with a different color. We saw Bethesda do the exact same thing with Fosnot where you could earn this mask in-game for free, but you could buy this mask on the Atomic Shop, it's just a different color. You'll be able to earn the Tenderizer plan this time with Meat Week, and this is big because it means you could get legendary versions of the Tenderizer once you know the plan. And speaking of legendaries, it looks like there's going to be some more comprehensive changes with the legendary reward system overall, as it seems like Bethesda has been making some changes behind the scenes so that after completing certain events, it'll now reward you a legendary similar to Merg's mystery pick. So that meaning that it'll give you a random legendary weapon or armor just for completing the event, like the way it worked with Fosnot, like the way it'll work with Meat Week this year. But it looks like they're going to start applying this to other events in the world. So it won't just be you have to hit this legendary as you're completing the event, but it'll also be an award for just being there when it finishes. That's a very welcome change. I know a lot of people have been wanting that, and I'm very happy to see them adding it. And outside of that, there's a lot of other miscellaneous ATX content that could be found in the files. But overall, it definitely looks like the future is looking upward for Fallout 76. There still needs to be some fairly significant changes as far as what's happening right now, but at least some decent content is on the way, which is something to look forward to. One thing I totally forgot to talk about earlier in this video, so I'm just going to talk about it now. There's a new outfit finally added to Fallout First. This has been a long time coming, and it's actually a good looking outfit. So if you were a subscriber of this, you aren't just getting skins, you're actually getting some new clothing. But even further, this new vending machine skin added to the Atomic Shop for player vendors is probably one of the single coolest things they've added thus far. And it's purely cosmetic. I'm sure Bethesda made a ton of money on this one. You could find them all throughout Fallout 76 already, and whoever designed this, whoever thought of this, you should keep doing things like this. But that's large in part going to wrap it up for this one. Hopefully you guys found this video informative. Hopefully it was helpful for those of you who are maybe just loosely following the game, trying to decide if it's worth getting into again. If you do want to keep more up to date with data mines, I do have a link to the Data Miners Discord down below. It's the source for a lot of this new information, and some stuff I didn't even cover in this video, so I do recommend checking that out. But until next time, I thank you all again for watching, and I hope to see you all later.